Hey, everyone. What is going on? Lauren Sisler here with AL.com. Welcome into our week 6 SEC Insider brought to you by All South Appliance Group. We appreciate our sponsor. And yes, we appreciate our guest, our weekly guest, Matt Zenitz, our SEC Insider, here to talk a little football as we cruise to the second half of the SEC college football season. Things are going pretty well on the Alabama side of things thus far, and we'll start there. So far, Alabama has been very dominant on both sides of the football and really just against each and every one of its opponents. But when you look down the schedule with 5 games remaining on the regular schedule, is there a legitimate contender or challenger for Alabama before we get into that SEC title game?
I don't know what Lauren Sisler thinks, but I don't know if I see a legitimate challenger at this point, at least based on who they face the rest of the regular season. So the two teams that stick out as the biggest potential threats, LSU obviously, and then Auburn, the end of the year, or the second to last game of the regular season. And with those two teams, I just don't know if LSU is at a level defensively to not only win that game, but even keep it within a couple touchdowns, just based on the continued struggles for them from a defensive standpoint, including in their most recent game against South Carolina, where they took a step forward but still gave up more than 400 yards. And then with Auburn, I just don't know if they have enough there, including at the quarterback position right now, based on what they've been getting from Bo Nix, to be able to be competitive in that game. It's a team that obviously, if a couple calls go the way that they should have gone, could easily be 1-4 at this point going into their game against LSU this weekend.
Yeah, so you talk about that Auburn matchup. Biggest concern when you look at this matchup with Auburn LSU, obviously, as Auburn has had its struggles. They had a better performance on the road against Ole Miss. Bo Nix certainly has shown his fair share of struggles on the road. Of course, they get to go back home into Jordan-Hare Stadium, which he has done a better job of. And really, I think that we saw a little bit of a better chemistry amongst the offense, I think, against Ole Miss as well, and more of the offense that Gus Malzahn and his coaching staff have been pushing towards, getting that explosive power, taking some of that pressure off Bo Nix, establishing the run game, and then obviously building off of that with some explosive plays. To you, what is your biggest concern that LSU poses to Auburn this weekend?
So I'm going to give two. I'm going to give some love to both offense and defense. So from an offensive standpoint for LSU, I have to point out Terrace Marshall. So LSU lost a tremendous receiver in Jamar Chase, potential top 5 draft pick, but still have, even with Jamar Chase gone, arguably the best receiver in college football through the first at least 5 games of SEC play. And Terrace Marshall, a potential first-round pick, got overshadowed some last year just based on some of the other guys that they had on that offense with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, guys like that. But Terrace Marshall quietly, during the course of the end of last year or last season as a whole, put up double-digit touchdowns and has continued to put up big numbers through the early part of this year, where now, including what he did last season, has posted 14 touchdowns as a wide receiver during the last 7 games dating back to last year, including 9 touchdowns through LSU's first 4 games this year. Once again, a potential first-round draft pick at wide receiver that Auburn is going to have a challenge in terms of trying to contain. And then the guy defensively for LSU that's definitely worth keeping an eye on, young guy in B.J. Ojulari. So the reigning SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week, brother of Georgia's standout edge rusher Azeez Ojulari, but starting to make a name for himself also as a freshman at LSU. So in earning the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week honor this past week, to earn that, posted 3 sacks during the course of their win against South Carolina, and just continues to establish himself as a difference maker for LSU as an edge rusher, and continuing to get pressure on the quarterback. And I know very much so that they think really highly of him, what he's done, and just the potential he has as an impact player for them from a defensive standpoint.
All right, and we're going to wrap this thing up. Obviously, Auburn kicking off on CBS, 2:30 kick time for them at Jordan-Hare Stadium on Saturday. So we're going to put a big bow on this. We're 5 weeks in for the SEC college football season, 5 more to go. Through 5 weeks, who has been the most impressive young player? So we'll stick with somebody that has kind of entered the mix, whether it be a freshman or someone that's starting to see some significant playing time. Who would that be?
Yeah, but it's hard to go away from Auburn there. So Tank Bigsby has been as good as any running back in the country, probably during the course of the last few games as his role has grown at Auburn. Hey, had another big game for them against Ole Miss, was a big factor for them in terms of being able to pull out a win in that game and join some elite company during the course of that matchup. So, but before last week, Auburn had only had 2 running backs in school history who posted 3 straight 100-yard rushing games against SEC teams. And those 2 running backs were Bo Jackson, who I think people know who Bo is, and then Michael Dyer in 2010. Now they have 3 guys, another guy to add to that list, and Tank Bigsby, who in his first 3 games really getting significant opportunities, has now posted 3 straight 100-yard rushing games and has become just the 3rd running back in Auburn school history to do that in 3 straight games against SEC competition. And to go along with that is the first SEC freshman running back since 2016, Benny Snell at Kentucky, to have those 3 straight 100-yard rushing games. So definitely in some very good company there.
Yeah, no doubt in my mind that the ceiling is very high for Tank Bigsby, and certainly a great playmaker for them and somebody that kind of gets that spark going for them on the ground. Exactly what Auburn's looking for. They're going to have to do more of that this week against LSU, as you said. Matt Zenitz, we appreciate you as always. And of course, we appreciate our sponsor, All South Appliance Group, proud sponsor of SEC Insider, inviting you to visit us online at myallsouth.com or at any one of our showrooms across Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida.